Idle wife message from her girl's trip. I'm not coming back. I've met someone much better and younger than you. She transferred our joint savings to her personal account. Please subscribe the channel and tap the bell so you don't miss out the story. Let's get started. My name is Ethan Walker. I'm 35 years old. U.S. Army veteran, tactical mind, loyal husband. At least I used to be. Last night I came home after wrapping up my final mission. My bags were still in the trunk. My boots still dusty. I was planning to surprise my wife, but instead, she surprised me. On the kitchen table were divorce papers, sitting next to the coffee maker like they belonged there. On top of them, a yellow sticky note that just said, "Check your phone." I opened the message. My heart was already sinking, but nothing could have prepared me for what I read. I'm not coming back from this girl's trip. I've met someone better, younger, and I've already moved our savings to my personal account. Please don't contact me. She signed off with a heart emoji. 7 years of marriage, erased in one text. No explanation, no guilt. Just like that. I stared at my phone for a few seconds. Then without blinking, I typed, "Understood." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. That kind of reaction is for people who still hope things can be fixed. I was past that. The signs were always there. Late night texting, weekend girls' nights that didn't add up, and the sudden change in how she smiled at me, or didn't. She thought I never noticed, but I did. That's why 2 months before I left, I started protecting myself. I opened a separate account, moved what I could, even backed up her emails just in case. She thought she played the perfect game. She doesn't know who she just messed with. I've survived war zones. Now it's time to survive this. No, it's time to end it. My way. The next morning I drove to the bank. Not the one we used together, the one she didn't know existed. I had quietly transferred just enough over the last few months that I wasn't left empty. The teller greeted me by name. "Morning, Mr. Walker. Everything all right?" I nodded, just tying up some loose ends. She thought she drained me, but that was the decoy account. I let her take it. I wanted her to feel confident. Back home, the silence felt different. Not peaceful, strategic. Every room in that house held memories of us. And also the truth she thought I never saw. Like how she suddenly started using cash only. Or the perfume she wore that I didn't buy. Or the voice notes I recovered from our synced smart speaker. Ones she didn't know were backed up to the cloud. Her new guy, his name is Kyle, 27, fitness trainer, still lives with roommates and posts shirtless videos online for confidence coaching. I knew everything. His address, his car's license plate, his record, which wasn't clean. And yet, I wasn't angry. I was fascinated. This was the man she threw away a marriage for? She thought she leveled up. She didn't know I'd already started recording calls, that I'd found a lawyer weeks ago, that her name was still on my house. But I'd removed mine from the joint lease of her new apartment. She was about to learn that revenge doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes legally, surgically, and with the calm of a man who has nothing to lose. What she also didn't know was that I wasn't completely alone. There was someone else quietly standing by me through all this. And that someone had just texted, "She's moving in with him." I followed the truck. "Want pictures?" I smiled, not because I was happy, but because the next move was finally mine. I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. She thought she had control, thought she had the upper hand, but she didn't understand what it meant to deal with someone like me. In the military, we're trained to think ahead, to act on instinct and strategy. You're never just reacting. You're always 2 steps ahead. And right now I was setting a trap. The phone call came the next morning. It was the lawyer, a sharp woman who'd helped me arrange everything without ever questioning me. "Ethan, I've got all the paperwork ready for the separation," she said. "I've already got her bank details from your request, and we filed everything." But I waited. I did some digging, and her new boyfriend, this Kyle guy, has some loose ties. Looks like he's been using her for access to her finances. I smiled coldly. It was a good feeling to have someone else digging into her life while she thought she was out there living her new dream with a guy who couldn't even manage his own debts. The lawyer continued, "He's got a few credit issues, some unpaid bills. I'm guessing he's just using her for whatever he can get. Are you sure about this? The whole situation is a mess." I sat down, my hands moving slowly over the papers she'd sent me, making sure the divorce paperwork was perfectly in place. I had Eve. The papers she'd sent me, making sure the divorce paperwork was perfectly in place. I had everything I needed. She had no idea that I'd been preparing for this moment for months. "Absolutely," I said, my voice steady. "I want full control of the assets. I'll make sure it's all tied up legally. I just need to know when to pull the trigger." "Soon," she said. "Once we have more on this Kyle guy, we'll start the real work." That evening, I was going through some old photos on my phone. I had to admit, some of them brought back memories of a time when I truly believed in her, in us. Back when she smiled the way she used to, before the phone calls started getting too frequent and the late-night work meetings grew longer. I closed my eyes for a second, but I couldn't afford to dwell on the past. The reality was clearer than ever now. She'd crossed a line, and there was no going back. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions, pretending like I was unaffected. I took the dog for walks, talked to my neighbor about the weather, smiled at the barista when I grabbed my coffee. But underneath it all, I was calculating, always calculating. The waiting game began. I knew she was out there, flaunting her new life, pretending like she didn't care. She posted pictures on social media with Kyle, showing off how in love they were, how she was living her best life. I couldn't help but notice how often she tagged him in the photos, how she couldn't wait to flaunt the new man who had taken her from me. I clicked on the most recent post. They were at a beach. She was in a bikini. Her arms were wrapped around him, and she looked happy. A smile tugged at my lips, but it wasn't a smile of warmth. It was the smile of someone who knew something the other person didn't. I scrolled down and saw the comments from her friends, talking about how perfect they looked together, how lucky she was to have found someone so much better. But the bitterness didn't touch me, not yet. Instead, I tapped the screen and swiped over to Kyle's profile. I wasn't surprised by what I saw. Pictures of him flexing at the gym, standing next to a car that looked like it was leased, and more shirtless selfies than I cared to count. But then I found something interesting. A picture of him with a woman that wasn't my ex-wife. Her name was Rachel. She was older than him, wearing a ring on her finger, and standing close to him in a way that made me question the nature of their relationship. I took a screenshot of the image. It was a clue I hadn't expected. Maybe Kyle wasn't as innocent as he appeared. Maybe he had his own secrets. I didn't waste time. I called the lawyer again. "You won't believe this," I said when she picked up. "I've got something on Kyle. He's not just a personal trainer. There's more to this guy than meets the eye." She was intrigued. "What did you find?" "Look at this photo of him with a woman named Rachel. She's wearing a ring. I'm thinking they're either involved or there's something he's hiding from her. But it's enough to give me leverage." "Hold tight," she said. "Let's see if we can dig deeper. If he's already involved with someone else, it could work in your favor." The days stretched on as I continued to gather information. Every step of this game had to be measured carefully. I watched her as she got closer to Kyle, as if she didn't even realize I was watching from the shadows. But the real twist was coming. Then the text came. "Ethan, I have something for you. The photos you asked for. Kyle's been spotted at Rachel's house. It's her place, not his. And, get this, she's married." That was it, the final piece of the puzzle. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The next few steps were clear. I didn't need to react in anger or revenge. I just needed to let her believe she was winning, until it was too late. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. It was my old friend from the army, Marcus. He had a way of getting information when no one else could. "Ethan, I've got the dirt you need. You won't believe this, but I've found out where Kyle works. He's not just a personal trainer, Ethan. He works for a shady firm that does more than fitness." The realization hit me like a freight train. I wasn't just going to expose her betrayal. I was going to expose everything. Her new boyfriend wasn't just a rebound. He was part of a much bigger mess. A mess she didn't even realize she had walked into. And now I had everything I needed to take back what was mine and make her regret ever walking away. But the game wasn't over yet. In fact, it was just beginning. I sat in my living room, looking over the piles of evidence I had accumulated. The divorce papers were sitting on the coffee table, but they no longer felt like a victory. This wasn't just about money or revenge anymore. This was about control. She had thought she was in the driver's seat, but now she was nothing but a passenger on a ride she didn't know was coming. I had done everything quietly. No outbursts, no desperate phone calls, no messy confrontations. I had waited, and now all the pieces were falling into place. My phone buzzed again. It was an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't pick up, but something told me this wasn't a coincidence. Ethan Walker? The voice on the other end was crisp, businesslike. I sat up straight. Yes, this is Jenna from the Evergreen Group. I'm reaching out about your estranged wife. We have reason to believe she's been involved in illegal financial transactions. I have some information I think you'll want to see. My heart skipped. Illegal transactions? She was smarter than I gave her credit for, but she never was very careful. She was a careless person by nature, thinking she could run away without facing the consequences. But she was wrong. I'm listening, I said, barely keeping my voice steady. We've traced some large deposits made from her account to an offshore bank. It's a classic move to hide assets. We've also found that she's been using your shared finances to fund this new relationship with her boyfriend. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was a crime. My heart was beating faster now, not from anger, but from anticipation. We can't move forward without your confirmation, Jenna continued. Do you want to proceed? I didn't hesitate. Yes. She paused. Good. I'll be in touch. As soon as I hung up, I grabbed the divorce papers and walked to the filing cabinet. My hands were steady, but inside I was bracing for the next chapter. I needed her to feel the weight of what she had done. And when I exposed it all, everything she thought was hidden, it was going to be brutal. For the next few days, I gathered the final pieces. I wanted her to think she had won. I went to the local coffee shop I frequented every morning, where I knew she and Kyle often hung out. I made sure to sit at the table closest to them. The air was thick with tension as I watched her laugh a little too loudly at something Kyle said, her hand resting casually on his arm. She thought she was untouchable, didn't she? But I wasn't going to make a scene. That wasn't my style. Not now. I kept my face neutral, my eyes on my laptop, even though my brain was running in circles. This was it. She was here. I didn't confront her then. I didn't need to. Instead, I just recorded the moment. The way she looked at him, the way her fingers touched his arm like they were still in love, it all mattered, every moment of it. Later that evening, after I left the coffee shop, I texted her. I saw you. Looks like you've moved on pretty quickly. You think Kyle's the real deal? Don't worry, I won't ruin your little love story. Not yet, anyway. A few seconds passed. Then the message came through. What do you mean by that? I mean, your little secret is about to be exposed. You should have thought about that before you started using my money for him. Her reply was swift, filled with panic. What are you talking about? Don't threaten me. I chuckled darkly, not replying immediately. She was playing the victim again. She didn't even realize how deep she was in this mess. The lawyer got back to me that evening. Ethan, we're about to put the pressure on her. We've gathered everything. Kyle's finances, her offshore account, everything. She paused. But I need you to be clear. Once we drop this bomb, there's no going back. I took a deep breath. I'm ready. Good. Let's make her wish she never crossed you. The day of reckoning came faster than I expected. I'd received a call from Jenna that morning. She had everything ready. The official report was prepared. Proof of all the fraudulent transactions, the money she transferred into her personal account, the lies she told, and even her boyfriend's involvement in her schemes. By 10 a.m., I had the documents in my hands. I didn't even look at them right away. Instead, I sat in my car in front of her apartment, just watching the door. I needed this to be a statement. I needed her to see me standing there, holding the final pieces of her deception. She walked out at 10:30, dressed in a new jacket she must have bought for this new life she was creating. Kyle was with her. She had that look in her eyes, the one she used to give me when she was happy. But now it was nothing but empty. I stood up and walked toward them, the documents tucked inside my coat. She didn't see me at first, too busy laughing at something Kyle said. But when she turned, "Ethan, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I pulled out the papers, and for a brief moment, I could see her scan the documents. Her face turned from shock to realization, then to panic. "I told you," I said quietly, "you shouldn't have crossed me." Kyle, ever the clueless one, tried to intervene. "Hey man, what's this about? Why don't you just walk away?" I ignored him. The moment wasn't about him. This was between her and me. "You've been using my money," I said slowly, "transferring it into secret accounts, thinking I wouldn't notice. You really thought I wouldn't find out? All for him." Her eyes darted from the papers to me, then to Kyle. She could feel the walls closing in. She could feel the weight of her own choices pressing down on her. You don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice shaky now. "I was just lying," I finished for her. "Just using me? You've been playing with fire, and now it's going to burn you." Kyle was still trying to act tough, but I could see the uncertainty creeping in. He was starting to realize that he wasn't just caught up in a love affair. He was in deep with someone who had no problem throwing him under the bus. I turned my attention back to her. "You know, I was planning to let you walk away with some dignity, but you just had to keep pushing. You couldn't even give me the decency of a fair divorce. You decided to rub it in." She took a shaky breath, her eyes not meeting mine. I could see the guilt in them now, the panic. She knew this was bigger than she could handle, and it was just beginning. It had been days since I confronted her, but the weight of that moment lingered. The satisfaction of seeing her stunned, speechless, was fleeting. The real game had just begun. It wasn't just about exposing her anymore. It was about making her feel every ounce of pain she had inflicted upon me. Every lie, every moment of disregard, every tear I had shed in silence for the last few years. It was time to make her understand that I was no longer the weak man she once manipulated. The nights had grown colder, and with it, my resolve. I had carefully planned everything. I wasn't going to just throw everything in her face. I wanted her to drown in the consequences of her own actions. I had all the evidence, all the truth, but I needed something more. A final piece that would destroy her. I needed her to lose everything, to see that the life she was building with Kyle was not just a betrayal of me, but of everything she had taken for granted. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see her face. That look of innocence she had perfected, the one that made people believe she could do no wrong. She had that look when she lied about us, when she acted like I was the villain in our marriage. But now every story, every justification she'd given herself was falling apart. The truth was there for everyone to see. I'd spent my days in silence, gathering the final evidence. A picture here, a hidden account number there, screenshots of text messages between her and Kyle. But now I was getting ready to hit the hardest blow. The bank account she had drained, our savings, the one she thought no one would ever find, had one final twist. I knew the moment I revealed it, everything would change. It was late one evening when Jenna called again. Her voice was calm, controlled, but there was an underlying urgency that I didn't miss. "Ethan, we've got everything. The accounts, the fraudulent transfers, and there's something else." She paused. "We found another account, one she opened in her mother's name. It's registered in another country. This is bigger than we thought." A cold thrill ran through me. She hadn't just been careless with our money. She'd been building an escape plan. She'd planned her departure with the same precision she had used to deceive me. "When can we make this public?" I asked. My voice sounded distant, almost detached. "Soon," Jenna answered. "We need to confirm the final details with the authorities, but once it's out, it's over for her. She won't get away with this." I hung up the phone, a sense of finality settling over me. I could hear the pounding of my heart in my ears. I wasn't just doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing this for justice. She needed to feel the weight of her actions. She needed to face the consequences of using me, of stripping me of everything, and thinking she could walk away without a care in the world. The next day, I finally saw her again. She didn't know it yet, but this was the final act of her game. She had been busy trying to act like nothing had happened, trying to go on with her new life, but the weight of the truth was about to crush her. I watched her walk out of her apartment building. She looked different, distant, almost cold. The smile that had once been so full of warmth now felt empty, forced. She was trying to hold on to something she knew was slipping away, but she wasn't fooling anyone. As she walked to her car, I stepped into her path. For a moment, she didn't recognize me. She looked at me with that familiar mixture of confusion and annoyance, but I could see the flicker of nervousness in her eyes. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" Her tone was defensive, but I could see her mask cracking. She knew something was coming. "I wanted to talk," I said, my voice calm, almost casual. I knew I had the upper hand now. She raised an eyebrow, her eyes scanning me for any signs of weakness. "About what?" I took a step closer, not backing down. "About you, about everything you've done, about how you thought you could just walk away with my money and my life, how you thought you could leave me behind while you built this perfect little world with Kyle. But here's the thing, Sarah. You can't. You can't leave without facing what you did to me." Her lips tightened into a thin line, and I could see the anger rising in her. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but I'm done with you. I'm done with all of this." She gestured vaguely at the air, like dismissing me was as easy as brushing away a fly. "No," I said softly. "You're not done. Not until I'm done." I pulled out the stack of documents I'd been holding in my hand. "This is everything you've worked so hard to hide. All of it. The secret accounts, the stolen money, everything." Her eyes widened for just a moment before she quickly recovered. She tried to snatch the papers from my hand, but I pulled them out of her reach. The fear in her eyes was unmistakable now. She had been so careful, but I had played my cards just right. I had known what to do. I kept the papers in front of her face, watching her grow more frantic. "What do you want from me, Ethan? I've moved on. I'm happy. Can't you just leave me alone?" I shook my head slowly. "You think it's that simple? You think you get to just walk away and leave me with nothing? You think he can fix all the mess you made? Number. That's not how this works." Her eyes filled with panic as she glanced nervously over her shoulder. Kyle was watching from a distance, trying to figure out what was happening. She knew she couldn't escape this, not without facing the consequences of her actions. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did," I said. "I'm going to make sure Kyle knows exactly who you are." She looked as though she was about to say something, but the words died in her throat. She knew this wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't something she could talk her way out of. "I'm not the man I was before," I said, my voice lowering. "You pushed me to this point, but now it's time for you to realize that everything has a price." And in that moment, I could see her world crumbling around her. Every lie she had built up, every ounce of security she had felt, it was all slipping away. "You really thought you could take it all and get away?" I asked again. "Not this time." The silence between us felt heavy. She stared at me, her face pale, realizing she was no longer in control of the narrative. I could feel the weight of this moment, the culmination of everything that had been leading up to it. And I was ready. Thank you for being a part of this story with me. Subscribe the channel. Until next time, take care, stay strong, and remember, you're never alone in your struggles.